Welcome to Sports Saved My Life. My name is Clayton Freck, and I'm the CEO and founder of Angel City Sports. We know the power of sport to change and, in some cases, save lives. We hear these compelling stories every day, and we created this show to share them with the world. Enjoy the show, and remember to like, follow, share, and comment. So, today I am really excited to talk to, I think, one of the coolest couples in Paralympic sport, Eliana Mason and Calahan Young, both of them on the U.S. Goalball team. And, why am I excited? Well, first of all, I need to hear their story of how they met, but I also want to learn more about Goalball and their own journeys in sport. I've seen Goalball up close, and it's a really interesting sport. Eliana, hailing from Beaverton, Oregon, won a bronze medal in the Rio Paralympic Games in 2016 and a gold medal at World Championships in 2014, if I have my facts straight. And Calahan, hailing from the Keystone State, Pennsylvania, won a silver at the Pan American Games in 2019, which then I think earned our team a spot on the Tokyo program for the Tokyo Paralympics. Both of you came to me and Angel City Sports through our program manager, Josh Lucas. And, I would say Josh is a huge fan of both of yours. And he sent me a couple text messages about you. And I would say what struck me about the messages were his respect for both of you is much more than the athlete. It is much more about the character, about sportsmanship and, kind of your kindness and how you treat others and your interest in giving back. And so this is what makes me excited to be connected to you. And so he had just nothing but rave reviews for you both. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We're excited to be here.
All right. So this is how I like to start the show, which is the show is Sports Saved My Life. Simple, right? What does that mean for you? What comes to mind when I say that?
It really just changed and has shaped my entire life. I discovered Goalball about 14, which is young teenage girl. There's a lot of identity formation there and figuring out who you are. And I loved sports growing up, but couldn't fully participate in the way I wanted to. And so Goalball has really just shaped my life since that point onwards. It's been 11 years and I've done so much with the sport and off of the court. I've gotten so many opportunities. I've grown in my confidence as an individual, and I definitely would not be who I am today without sports, for sure.
I love that. Love the confidence thing. What about you, Calahan?
Yeah, so growing up, I played pretty much every sport under the sun. Football, basketball, I did track and field. I was a big baseball fan, so I played baseball. But as my vision got worse, so did my ability to compete in sports. So once I found Goalball, whenever I was 11 or 12, that's when I really fell in love and gained that confidence. And I was always looking for that team sport I was able to contribute my fullest to. And Goalball really gave me the opportunity. And ever since then, I've kind of blossomed into who I am now. And I would never give it away because it's really developed who I am, my interests, my values. And I also think team sports help you in the business and life. So just so many skills I've learned and I would never give away.
Yeah, I love that. All right. This can be a hard one for some. Give me a one-sentence description of yourself. Who is Eliana? Who is Calahan?
Wow, that's a hard one. I would say Eliana is a outgoing, friendly, compassionate athlete working towards the master's in mental health counseling.
Dig it.
Oh gosh, I'm not good on the spot, but
welcome to being on the spot with me for the next hour plus. You're on the spot, my man.
Yeah, totally. I'd say Calahan is a outgoing, adventurous person who loves sport and competition, and is also working for his master's in healthcare administration. And wants to help change the healthcare system so it's more inclusive and can help more people.
That might have been more than a sentence.
And there was a comma.
Run-on sentence.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't learn grammar well, so it's all good.
You were never good at grammar. I was never good at grammar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Like English class kind of gave me like nightmares.
Yeah, right.
It still does. So
No, it still does. I still don't know what all the right words are, preposition and this and that. But
Yeah.
all right. So one of the things that I think is unique to this show is that we really we dig into childhoods. I want to know like what kind of kid you were. What were those sort of formative experiences? What were your parents like? What was going on? Good, bad, and ugly, right? About your childhood. So can you guys share some insight into what life was like growing up for you?
Yeah, definitely. And, I also want to add, I am a big believer in like when you have a disability, it's the family system shapes and impacts that whole experience. And that's why I'm so passionate about disability counseling is it's a family approach. And I was very fortunate. I am the only girl in the middle of two brothers. So you can imagine that experience. And both of them are fully sighted. So, being the only one with a vision impairment and then two brothers. So I'm very competitive and stubborn and a lot of that. And my parents were very involved and my dad loved sports. He coached both my brothers' football teams. He's been very involved in my goalball journey. He taught me how to ride a bike and we got a tandem bike so I could be included. I went skiing for the first time at 8. My parents really challenged me and treated me the same as my brothers. And so I was able to not view my vision impairment as a limitation, but more so just like one aspect of who I am. And so it's not, I can't do this, but it's how can I do this? And so I'm forever grateful for their support and, my family support of just helping shape like who I am and teaching me that confidence.
I love that. So before I hand it over to Calahan, can you explain kind of how visual impairment, kind of how and when it hit you? Was it with you from birth, or did it sort of hit you at some age, and like did it progress? Kind of what was the arc of the impairment?
Yeah, so I was born with underdeveloped eyes. I also was born with cataracts, and so my lenses were removed but never replaced. And I have glaucoma. So 3 kind of rare conditions for a child. And it's interesting.
You got all 3 of them.
Yeah, and it's not genetic and it's not I wasn't premature. So it's kind of just one of those anomalies. And so yeah, mine was from birth, but I always joke that I didn't actually know I was blind till like kindergarten, which is funny. Like, how did you not know? But kids are egocentric, right? Like they believe everyone sees the way they do. So like literally in my case, I believed everyone saw the way I did. And I was in kindergarten and I remember the teacher kept talking about it's on the board, it's on the board. And I was like, what is the board? Like, what is this board that you're talking about?
Oh yeah, you couldn't even see the board.
Yeah, but like I was so confused because it wasn't until my brothers, we interacted like normal siblings. It wasn't, when you're a child, your parents do things for you. So you don't really realize what you can't see. But then in school around other kids who could see, I started to realize like, wait, what am I missing? And my parents like, we explained this to you, you can't see. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean you can't see? So because I was born with it, I've never known any different. And so when people ask me like, well, what's your vision like? I have to tell them, well, I can tell you what I can see, but I can't compare it for you. I didn't lose vision, so I don't know any differently.
Yeah.
So
there's no like benchmark for you. It's just what it is.
Yeah. But I think, I continue to like grow into my disability, I guess, or like understand it as I'd get older, because the biggest, I think, hindrance of vision loss can be independence at times. And so when all my friends were turning 16 and getting their license, I'm like, well, I can't drive. Like until 16, nobody could drive. And then all of a sudden, all my friends have licenses and I don't. And so even though my vision impairment has been constant my whole life, my conception of it has changed as others around me have grown in their independence and I've had to figure out other ways to adapt.
That's really interesting. So in other words, it becomes more prevalent and apparent in your life as you got older, as your peers are able to sort of fly the nest in a different way. than you were.
Exactly. Or like as an adult, people can just drive to work, typically there's all, exceptions, but just the norm. And so for me, it's learning public transit or, utilizing ride sharing apps or figuring out rides. And so just small things like that, just with independence in terms of driving or something simple like going to the grocery store. Like you can't just walk in and get everything you want. You need you could either do like grocery delivery or you can ask someone like who works there for assistance, but it's not just get in, get out. So as you get more responsibility, your vision impairment impacts things in a different way. Whereas a child, like your parents drive you to school, your parents get you the groceries. So it kind of just, as you get older and adapt or evolve, like the way you handle your impairment also changes.
It's so interesting. I mean, it would be so fun to have like to be a fly on the wall of you when you're like 4 or 5 years old. You're like, I'm fine.
Yeah, right.
What's the impairment?
Yeah, I'm just I'm like, I'm not blind. Like, what are you guys talking about? Like, I can do anything that like they can do. My mom said when I was little, I'd constantly like run into things and just like get up and keep walking like it was nothing. So
I've seen family videos. I can attest to that.
So
I love that. All right, Calahan, give me a little bit of your childhood insight into who you were growing up and what was life like.
So growing up, I mean, all we did was do things outside. We had a pretty big backyard that we could play in nonstop. So we had friends.
But hold on, you're from a little town, or what kind of town is it?
Yeah, so I'm from a town called Irwin, which is about 45 minutes east of Pittsburgh. And so it's a suburb. It was pretty nice. I love my hometown. We currently just moved to a town called North Hills, which is a little bit north, like 5 minutes north of Pittsburgh now. So a little bit closer to the city.
Okay.
But so we were able to go and play. Like I grew up playing outside 24/7, whether to capture the flag, football in the backyard. And outside of those just recreational things, we played every sport that my dad was the coach of for most things. So my mom was there, my biggest supporter, and my dad was the coach. And, we literally played everything. My brother was a phenomenal basketball player and baseball player. My sister was really good at soccer, and pretty much every sport she played, she was good at too. She played cup soccer. My brother played AAU basketball. And by around that time, I started playing goalball. And so we all had our sports that we were really locked in and like laser focused with. And so it spread my mom and dad thin because my mom would have to drive home from work, pick me up, drop my sister off at soccer practice. My dad would have to pick up my brother from basketball practice. Just like a complete chaos, but we fought through and yeah, I mean, we just literally were outside for everything. I mean, it was pretty rare until like we got into like our teens is whenever we started getting inside like video games and whatnot. But so I have a eye condition called retinitis pigmentosa. Uh-huh. And so when I was younger, I had like my vision, my acuity was like 20/40. So it was pretty good. And the first time I really realized that I couldn't see as well as everyone else was during fall ball. My mom would make me wear a helmet with a cage on the front. And I fought tooth and nail and be like, no, I don't want this cage. Like, I'm not gonna get hit in the face. And then like one of the first times I didn't wear it, I got hit in the face with a pitch. So that was one of the first times it really clicked for me. Like, okay, maybe I can't see.
Dang.
You got, it's a risk and reward, right? And you kind of fight for something and then you kind of get hit in the face by a ball and you kind of like, you got to take a step back. So
it's a nice metaphor.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice metaphor. So, but did your vision decline then? Was it getting worse or was it still 20/40 today?
Yeah, no, I wish, but no. So with retinitis pigmentosa, it progressively gets worse and worse.
Okay.
And certain people have it different. So like it'll, some people it hits harder and you go blind way quicker. My dad has it. So it's genetics. And so it's all throughout my family. My uncle and niece have it. My dad has it, but my dad didn't start really losing vision until he was like in his mid 50s. And so he's going through that now. Whereas I started losing my vision, I came out with 20/40 and then my field was pretty bad. But since then it's gotten a lot worse. Like I'd say it's like 2100, 2200 and my field is like 8 degrees. They do like a visual fields test to figure out like what your field is. And so all that stuff is just getting worse and worse, but it kind of goes through stints, right? So like, I don't notice it per se. What was it? So like a year ago, I went to go. I don't play video games anymore, but I used to be able to. But then my friend Cody, he was like, "Hey, come over and we'll play Madden." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And like that's when I sat down and started playing. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't see this anymore." It's not until I have like those kind of moments where I realize like, "Oh shoot, maybe my vision got a little bit worse in the past 2 years." And so,
Yeah, because
you
no
know,
one tells you your vision gets worse, right? It's just like
yeah, like
just drops.
yeah, well, like day to day, it's fine, right? I might zoom in on my computer a little bit more to do some schoolwork. I don't notice, my eyes fluctuate throughout the day. So with my tunnel, I need to scan a lot more, so my eyes fatigue, and so sometimes my eyes are more fatigued than others, and so I zoom in. So I really don't notice things until I can't do or see things anymore, and then I'm like, oh, oh. And so it's kind of like a funny like way to look at it, because I really don't know until something I was able to do like a year ago, I'm no longer able to see or do.
You know, it's so interesting. I mean, I think most of us don't know that much about, right, the different uh, ways that people acquire blindness or visual impairment. So it's really interesting to see the two different cases that you guys both have, right? They're really, really different.
Yeah,
Um,
well, and a big thing with RP that, is it's all about peripheral vision. And so a lot of people don't realize how much they depend on their peripheral vision to scan or to see things. And so they describe it like it's slowly decreasing. So you go from maybe having full field to smaller to like picture looking through a paper towel roll to looking through a toilet paper roll to like a straw. So like your central vision may be one thing, but if you don't have a field, how
yeah,
functional is that really?
yep, yep.
Yeah, and another thing that really kind of improved my life was starting using a white cane. I hear it. It's another one of those things. It's like the face mask for the helmet. Like I fought it, and then one day I started using it. It's kind of just like ripping off the band-aid. I just had to start using it at school one day, and it's like really awkward and uncomfortable. But once it becomes normal. And so once I started using it, my life became so much better because I'm way more like the world's a lot more accessible whenever you don't need to be afraid to go outside. I kind of
So,
just like push through right now.
so what was the, and then I want to get back to the childhood stuff, but like, what was the resistance to the cane? Was it the like, is it like, what was that? Like,
So it's for me, it definitely was like the stigma that's involved
mhm, mhm.
associated with it. So like you see it, I don't know, you just automatically get lumped into this category. And so
Right. There's the
it,
blind guy. Here comes
yeah,
the
so
blind guy.
exactly. But
Yeah.
for me, so I was just like, oh, I don't want that. And it's just like I never asked for accommodations in high school up until senior year of high school. So like my grades were always awful until 12th grade. And like it's funny because looking back, I'm just like, why are you so stupid? You could have just asked for someone to read your test to you or whatever, instead of just filling in random answers with 5 minutes left because you only answered 5 of the 20. You could have like actually gotten good grades entire. It's one of those things where you look back and just be like, why you should have just done this way sooner.
Well, it reminds me a little bit of the debate in my household about whether we got a handicap placard.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, you know, like, you don't really need it, but
Yeah.
it's super helpful, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
like, at some point you're like trying to raise this independent kid, and does he really need to think of himself right that way? And it took us a couple years really to kind of like accept, and then we did it, and we're like, oh my gosh, what were we thinking?
Yeah, that's honestly because like, and I'm at the point now where like I can do certain things without my cane. Like I know my routes getting into Turnstone or something like that. But if I'm going to like a grocery store, the amount of aisles I would knock over, just like, so it's to the point where it's a necessity now. Whereas then it was maybe like a 50-50. Sometimes I need it, sometimes I don't. But since then it's just opened up my life and perception of like what I can do.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Uh,
there's this principle of it's called cane shame, and a lot of individuals like experiencing it like across the board. People don't want to use their canes, and the more vision you do have, the more resistant you are because you think like I can do this. I don't need this tool, and it's interesting because when you use a cane, like you were saying, you're kind of lost as a person. And then people just see you as a blind person,
Yeah.
not a person with a visual impairment. So like you lose your sense of self and people think they know they make assumptions about you and treat you in a certain way.
Yep.
And so it can be really intimidating, and it's very vulnerable to use that, because it is uncomfortable and you are facing judgments from others. And so you really have to work through that and figure out, who you are first and your confidence, and then show that to the rest of the world.
I think that's right. And you see, my son's an above knee amputee, and he's always worn shorts. Never really thought about it, never cared, right? But we live in California. But you just see a lot of amputees that will wear pants, and kind of just cover it up. And I think it's a little bit of the same concept.
If you can blend, you'll try to. So
yeah, for sure. Okay, before we dive deep into sport, and trust me, we're going to cover sport because that's why we're here. Talk to me a little bit about it sounds like you both had really, great families, supportive families, you're active athletic families, and you were both good athletes growing up. But what were those sort of hard times, growing up? Did you feel discrimination? Did you feel any bullying? Was it at times just sort of hard to navigate, the adolescent, preteen, teen years? What were some of the struggles, whether they're even related to disability or not? What were some of those challenges growing up?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, for one, I tried soccer when I was 10 and I couldn't track the ball. By the time I would see, it was kicked to the other side of the field. And I just got so frustrated. So of course, on practice, no one wanted me on their team because I would just bring down the whole team's ability. PE teachers didn't really have correct accessibility training or inclusive rec training. And so they'd be you can go to the library, or you can go do this elliptical and watch everyone else play, because they were afraid for my safety. And so it's embarrassing. Oh, why are you leaving PE? Oh, just because you don't want to explain that, why you're leaving.
But did your classmates know?
And that's the thing. I tried my very best to hide my vision loss. I was also resistant to a cane. And so I think that they knew more, but I was delusional and thought I hid my vision impairment better. One time we were running the mile and I straight on smacked into a pole, and they're probably what, well, just ask for help. And I'm just I'm fine. But yeah, so you do that. And there's a lot of social cues that go, that are visual. And so that can be hard, in middle school and in high school, when you're meeting new people, you make eye contact, they'll wave you over, they'll do this. And people don't always associate visual things all the time. I had this one person be why do you never wave back at me? And I'm you're waving at me? I have no clue. And so people, they might on some level be oh yeah, she has bad vision, but they don't really realize what that means for those social interactions. Reading facial expressions is hard, knowing some of those nonverbal social cues. So it can definitely be hard, in new settings, meeting new people, and especially in the sports world. When I was competitive, I would have loved to play soccer or volleyball or some type of team sport like that, but I just couldn't, feasibly do it safely and keep up with everyone. So yeah, it was definitely tough at a lot of times.
Yeah, no, I hear that. It's the story of some little classmate waving at you and you just have no idea, right?
Yeah, right.
Kind of breaks my heart, right? Because it's hard enough to make friends in especially those junior high years or whatever, right? They're brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. What about you, Calahan?
Yeah, so growing up, it's hard because you want to fit in so bad, and so I had vision, I was legally blind since birth. And so I always tried to fit in. So I always tried to do whatever it was we were doing in school or whatever. And so from trying to fit in, I think that developed people bullying me because I didn't fit in and I didn't do the things that they were doing that I was trying so hard to complete or just to be part of. And so that really did bring out the bullies and people to pick on me for not being able to see or do whatever we were doing, or that was consistent up until 12th grade, where I really started to get more comfortable with my my vision loss. And because I never used accommodations until literally the 12th grade. So I just always like, oh, I'm not blind. Like, I don't know why I ran diagonally at football practice and ran into the football or the field goal post, like that kind of stuff. And so I feel like even from like my football coaches, like they would like low key bully me and like make fun of me for stuff. And um, I think it all stems back from like my level of understanding and just being okay with who I am and what I was, compared to like at 12th grade, I was able to sit back and just like laugh at my vision, right? Like I was able to be open about it and just, just laugh if I ran into something. And I feel like the people that were bullying me kind of came around and were just like, oh, like he's actually just blind and he's not, I don't know what the thought process was.
So for both of you, you're basically mainstreamed, right?
Yes.
100%.
And so, which creates a unique social context and a unique set of struggles, probably, right? To sort of figure this. Where was there a moment for either of you where like it sort of clicked, right? That like, it sounds like, Calahan, there was maybe one for you leading into 12th grade where, okay, I need to kind of just own this and be more open about it and get the help that I need in order to, right, optimize your journey. But like, I don't know, did you both have like a kind of like a little bit of an aha moment, or was it like your parents sort of chipping away at you, or like what was that?
Mine was just honestly, I wanted to do better in school, and I had to sit down with my TVI and O&M instructor, and I was like, what am I not doing? And he just laid it out for me. He said, you're not using your accommodations, you're not using your cane, which I didn't use until like 3 years later anyways, but the accommodations is what made, everything kind of click for me, because, or just like owning it. Like you had said, just using the accommodations, leaving the classroom to go take your test. I've always taken my tests in other classrooms, but I was always telling people like, oh, it's just for X, Y, or Z. But now I was saying like, oh, I need someone to read my test because I can't see it. And so I started owning it way more and more as I progressed through school. And so that really was the aha moment for me after I did it the first few times. And, I didn't get pushback from people. It was just, it was just another part of the class.
Yep. What about you, Eliana? Did you was there like a moment or like?
Yeah, that's hard because I did use accommodations. I had an IEP since I was 5. I had to learn some Braille. I had like Zoom on all my stuff, and I had a magnifier. So I did use my accommodation. So I think on some level, people knew I had vision loss, but I tried to fit in. So I think they didn't realize to the extent of my vision loss.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have a really close core group of friends, which like I'm still close with and thankful for. Like one time it was in my IEP that I had to sit up front. And I tried to explain to teachers over and over again, it doesn't matter if I'm up front or in the back, I still can't see the board. Like, it's not like one of those, like, people would be like, is your vision, are you farsighted or nearsighted? And I'm like, both. I just can't see. So like, they always would try to make me sit up front. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. I can't see this. But they would be like, well, your IEP says this. And so one time I remember in chemistry, it was like a new year, and I was sitting in like the 4th row or something with my friends, and I got pulled to the front and no one else was in the front row. And I was literally mortified. Like, I was so embarrassed. Like, first off, if any teachers are ever listening to this, don't ever call a student out in front of the class. Like, wait, do it in private. Like, don't be like, oh, here you go, here's your blown up papers today, or oh, sorry, I forgot to blow up your test today. Like, don't call them out in front of their peers. That's embarrassing. But I got pulled to the front and I was just like mortified. And then like my 4 best friends got up and moved to the very front row with me. And they're like, if you have to sit up here, like, we'll sit here too. So I had a good balance of like, there were people out there who were bullies and awful. Like, one girl was like, you only get better grades than me because you're blind and the teacher feels bad for you. And I'm like, that one kind of stung a little bit, but 12-year-old me was like, maybe that's true. But 25-year-old me is like, she clearly was just, unhappy with her own grades and had to be a bully to make herself feel better. So, but yeah, so I had a good mix. I think it was more so like, in college, when I was kind of like figuring things out more independently, didn't have like a core group of friends per se in each class, or had to figure out where to go, or had to go up to the professor. Like in high school, middle school, whatever, you have an IEP, you have a vision teacher, you have them for you. Like, this is what they need to do. But in college, if you don't go to your professor and say, like, I need these accommodations, like, no one's going to help you. So I really think it was college for me where I really started advocating for myself better, because I had to.
Yeah. I'd be remiss not to mention the organization behind the show, Angel City Sports. Here's a little peek into what we do and why.
Sports can change your life. Let the Angel City Games presented by the Hartford help change yours or a future athletes you know for the better. From swimming to track and field, wheelchair basketball, or archery and more, there's something for everyone. We have Paralympic coaches. We have the equipment. All you need is the will to learn, and we will teach you the rest. In 2019, the Angel City Games presented by the Hartford welcomed over 400 athletes, 900 volunteers, and 2,500 attendees. Join us to make the next games our biggest and best yet.
So talk to me about that, the journey of sort of discovering, the sort of the VI sports world, adaptive and Paralympic sport world, because what I see a lot is that it's pretty random, because people don't really understand this. And so I'm just curious, given that you were kind of mainstream, like how did you find, whether it's goalball or whatever sports you started in sort of the adaptive sports world? Like what was that journey like?
So for me, it was honestly what you said. It was random. In middle school, I attended this program that taught kids how to do like home skills, like cooking, cleaning, just like basic things like how to open a checking account, how to do bright checks.
They call it home economics, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so,
but it was for the blind.
Yeah, it was specifically for the blind. And so, yeah.
How did they get you in that class? Where did this class come from?
My TBI O&M, it was like a district-wide thing. So they took all the kids that were blind.
Got it.
And brought them together once a month, which was also another awkward thing, was they brought one of those buses come by and like, you got to leave class. Everyone's like, oh, where's Calahan going? Oh, he's getting on a bus. Where's he going? Like, oh, by the way, I'm going to learn how to cook.
Can I just tell you a quick story? Like, and it doesn't compare, right? But I moved to the East Coast and I had from California, and I had a California accent. Right?
Okay.
And the teachers were convinced that I had a stutter.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
And so I had to go to speech therapy, and same feeling. They pull you out of class.
Yep.
And everybody knows why you're going. Even though, like, I don't know how they knew, but everybody knew, like, oh, Clayton's got speech therapy.
Yep.
And it was just like, you just slink off to the corner, to the door.
Like head down, like no one look at me.
It's terrible. Right?
Going on.
It's terrible. So I totally get it. Yeah, because you're mainstream, you're kind of trying to blend in, and suddenly here's the bus. Get on the bus.
Yeah, and it was like embarrassing almost at that point in age. Like now I'm looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to get out of school for that many times. It's sweet. but
so that's like junior high, right, Calahan?
Yeah.
Junior high?
It was like in between 5th to 8th grade. So yeah. And so it was honestly a random. So one of the local sports organizations run by a woman named Wendy Fagan, who teaches up at Slippery Rock University that Josh Lucas and I went to, they asked her to do a demo like one random Tuesday, and they had 4 goalball kids come down that were on her team. They showed us goalball, and I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. And they showed us their summer camp. It's called, back then it was called VIP Sports. Now it's Envision Blind Sports. And from there, I found out about goalball. I started attending their summer camps, and I joined their goalball team. We traveled to Slippery Rock from Pittsburgh. It's a 2-hour drive each way. So every Sunday for about like 5 years, we drove there and back every single Sunday for practice. And so it was literally the most random thing. Like if I wasn't there that day, I probably would have never found out about the sports.
Yeah, that's what kind of I'm thinking about, right? Like what if you blew it off that day, right? And where would you be today?
Yeah, no, and honestly, like I would have never. And the funny thing is about it, like part of the reason I chose Slippery Rock University is because I knew Wendy Fagan. I had friends there. I had a base there from this camp, and it really developed who I am and my comfortability with the university I chose. So honestly, I have no clue. I don't know where I would be. So it's funny to think about.
And Eliana, your story also has an element of luck or randomness in it, right?
Yeah, well, it does. And, before I go into that, I just want to say I'm a huge advocate for like adaptive sports, disability sports. I was at lunch today with a teammate and she's 32 and she didn't learn about goalball till 5 or 4 years ago. That's insane. She was born with her eye condition, nothing. She said nothing in her small town had accommodations, sports. So like, I'm a huge advocate of like trying to figure out how do we get these sports out to mainstream school kids. It's important. It's like you said, it's life-changing, sports have, changed my life. They saved my life.
Thank you for that the sound.
Yeah. I mean, it's so true.
We'll use that in the promo.
Yeah, it's so true. So I knew I went to one blind sports camp when I was like 12 or 13 and learned about goalball and came home and tried to tell my parents like, oh, I want to try this sport. It seems cool. And they're like, what is this sport? I'm like, I don't know. You like lay on the floor and a ball's thrown at you. And they're like, Eliana, what are you talking about? And like, I didn't know what I was talking about. I'm like, I don't know, you guys, it's like this cool sport. And they're like, okay, well, we don't know what you're talking about. We don't know how to help you get involved. And there was really nothing in Oregon at that time. Now, I'm going to give a shout out. There's Northwest Association of Blind Athletes. They cover Oregon, Idaho, Washington, and Montana. They do clinics, demos. They have camp abilities. They are amazing. And they are getting 5, 6, 7-year-olds involved in adaptive sports. So that's amazing.
But that's for VI kids.
Yes, VI kids. And they're great. There's also Adaptive Sports Northwest, ASNW, and they do all Paralympic sports. So you would have wheelchair basketball, para track, wheelchair rugby, goalball. So they're more the para, not just VI focused. And so those are 2 really good resources.
By the way, Angel City has a team up in Oregon as well.
Really?
And one of our athletes who came down to the Angel City Games, I guess to be in 2019, is visually impaired, and they found I don't remember who the runner is that runs with her, but if you see images of a 12 to 14-year-old girl VI athlete in Angel City's communications, it's an Oregon athlete of ours. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. So there's some Oregon resources if any Oregon listeners are here, but so I went to that. So I learned about it. So I knew there was like a connection. I knew like one older girl who like was trying to get goalball going in Oregon. She invited me to one of their practices and I just kind of went. I was like 14, 15, no clue really what I was doing, what the sport was. And it was really disorganized. There wasn't really anything going, but luckily, same thing as Calahan. On that day, Jen Armbruster, who is a former Paralympian for the USA women's team, was there. She's just moved to Oregon to be the adaptive sports rec coordinator at Portland State University. And so we crossed paths and I thought nothing of it. And I got an email a few months later from her and she was like, I'm starting up practices at Portland State. You seem like, you like sports and a good athlete. We'd love to like have you come. And so I thought about it and I was like, might as well, like this sport seems kind of cool. Like I didn't really love it or anything. I'm just like open to new opportunities. So I went and the first practice, all they did is made me do like cardio and drills and like all these things. And I was like, I hate this. And I was like, Dad, I don't want to go back. And he was like, you can't just quit. Like you tried it once, like you need to give it a full chance. And so I tried it and I loved gymnastics and cheerleading. I was always like twirling and flipping around. And so they're like, yeah, you're going to lay out and get hit by a 3-pound ball as hard as you can. And at first I'm like, what? I don't think I like this very much. But I went to my first tournament, Youth Nationals in Florida, and loved it. Just immediately fell in love with the competition, the teamwork, the sport in general, like everything about it. I just fell in love. And I came home and I was like, you guys, I want to be a Paralympic athlete. And my parents, like, I was one of those kids who was like, I want to do this. And then like 6 months later, I want to do this. Like I went through like Girl Scouts and piano and I wanted to be a professional harp player. And they're like, Eliana, you don't even own a harp. So like, I came home from Goalball and I was like, I want to be a Paralympian. And they're like, okay, like, we'll see how long this lasts. And it's been 11 years. So I guess I never lost interest in this one.
Well, a couple of thoughts. So first of all, our world is so weird because there are so few opportunities to compete out there. It's sort of like Paralympics or bust.
Yeah.
Right. There's not that much else out there in any of these sports. So it is funny that the little 14, 15-year-old girl is like, I'm going to Paralympics because my son said the same thing you know, 5 years ago in 2016 watching the Rio games. He's like, I want to go to the Paralympics. I'm going to go to Tokyo. It's like, because there's not that much in between. So
yeah, right. It's like from 0 to 100.
Which is really bad, right? Because
it is. And it's so hard. And similar to Calahan. So Jen so she was a Paralympic athlete. She went to Rio and she was there. So I started practicing at Portland State, and then another Paralympic athlete happened to be in Oregon. So I was just blessed. Like I had 2 Paralympic athletes I was training under. So I was like, this is amazing. Like people in our sport would kill to train with these 2. And I just fell into this opportunity. So I was going to utilize every second of it. And when it came time to college, I originally was going to go to Oregon State. And my parent, it's about an hour and a half away. And they're like, we are not going to drive you back and forth every weekend. Like, we love you, but that's absurd. And I was like, that's fair. And so I decided to go to Portland State, which was one of the best decisions I made. I loved it, had a great experience. But one of the main reasons is because Goalball was there. So I could train. And I was like, I'm not going to make the Rio team if I'm not training, weekly. So that was one of the reasons I picked my college, and it was definitely worth it, not just for Goalball, but for everything else that came with it.
And so you get invited to see it, and you sort of happen to run into a Paralympian. When you're there.
Yeah.
It's like, this is so random.
It's so random. So.
But hey, it worked, right? And you had to have the dedication to keep at it, right?
So. Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's not like the piano. her dad brings up the piano all the time. Too.
I know. All that was a waste of lessons.
Hey, she can still play a few songs.
I love that. All right, so I think we'll drop some links to some Goalball videos, right, in the show notes. But can you guys just sort of explain the sport like at a really simple, basic level for people that are maybe, because this will live on a YouTube channel as well as a podcast. So for the podcast listeners, like kind of describe what the sport looks like and what does it feel like down on the floor.
Okay, I got this.
Okay, thank goodness.
we have to do this traveling in the airport all the time, so we got it down. Okay, so Goalball, it's on a 9 by 18 meter size court, so size of a volleyball court. There's a goal along each side of the 9 meters, so you have to protect that whole length. There's 3 positions: left wing, right wing, and center. The court is string with tape over it, so you can tactily feel where you're at. Every athlete wears a pair of blacked out eye shades, so vision is completely eliminated. As you just saw, my vision's different than Calahan's vision, which is different than every other person who has a vision impairment.
So it doesn't matter what your impairment level is for Goalball because everybody gets blindfolded.
Yes.
Correct.
So what matters is, are you classified as legally blind? Meaning, is your vision less than 2200 and is your field of vision less than 20 degrees?
Okay.
Those are the things that matter. So we're completely equalized. Vision is completely eliminated. So the ball is 3 pounds. It is about the size of a basketball, but there's no air in it. So it's not like bouncy, and it has bells in it. So you track the ball with your ears and you orient yourself based off touch and feeling the string. On the defensive side, you're in like a crouched position. Every athlete has a different preferred position. You hear the ball and you dive out with your body, almost in like a Superman position on your side, hands out, feet out, and you're blocking the ball with your body. And you
have to throw the ball a certain way, right? It has to hit the ground.
Yes.
Right?
So last thing I was going to say on defense is, sometimes we joke around like it could be almost like a scrum, like rugby. If the ball's popped in the air, all of us are like making an effort to try to stop that ball. And it may look, I say it's organized chaos. We might look like we're going to run into each other or we're, going to collide, but we have our positions, we have our techniques, and like we are flying around the court with a purpose. So like you were saying, on the offensive side, you're throwing the ball, and think of it as an underhanded, powerful throw. On the elite Paralympic side, the women are throwing it like 30, 35 miles an hour, and the men are up to almost 40 miles an hour. So you have about a second or less to react. The ball has to hit the ground before the high ball line. When it's called that, because if it doesn't, you're called on a high ball, which is a penalty, and you have to block the whole 9 meters by yourself. It can bounce. There are certain throws you can do, like a spin throw, a bounce ball, a skip ball. So the ball can bounce, but it has to hit the ground before your high ball line, and then it has to land before the other team's high ball line. Which might sound confusing, but if you can see a court, it would make sense. I joke with people that goalball is for blind athletes, but you visually have to see it to understand it because it's very confusing.
And it's not, I've watched it just enough to know it's not for the faint of heart, because the ball comes in fast.
Oh yeah.
And,
Yeah. I mean,
Oh yeah.
The
and
ball
it doesn't feel good.
You have like a tenth of a second to respond to the ball. It's going 40 miles per hour on a court that it's probably traveling like 9 meters in total from where it's landing to where it's hitting the other people. And so, I mean, it's hitting you so quick, and it's insane. Some of the things that coaches ask me, the first thing that goes through my head, I'm like, man, I have to figure out where the ball's at, who's throwing, like when they're throwing it, where the ball's going. And then I need to make this decision of like, do I sprint to the other side of like to help my right wing to help defend the ball, or do I stay here to block? It just,
there's so much. There's so much to it. And sometimes we do combo practices just right now because we have a resident program. It's not co-ed. You have the USA men's team and USA women's team, but sometimes we'll do combo. And like 2 weeks ago, we were doing a combo and he threw the ball and it like hit me so hard in the stomach. It like knocked the wind out of me. And I'm literally like gasping, and my other teammate throws it, and then he throws it right back at me as quick as he can. I'm just like, come on. Like, you hear me over here, like can't breathe.
It's cutthroat.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I want to get my board of directors out and like, have them like suit up and
Yes, please.
give them the experience. So all right, so shifting gears, tell me how you guys met.
Okay, so we actually met at a goalball tournament, surprise, surprise, when we were 17. There was actually a tournament in Vancouver, Washington that he came to. But it's kind of a funny story, not to get like too graphic, but he booked his flight like for midnight, and our tournament ended at like 11. I had like just met him, and he seemed like nice, and I felt bad. So being the kind individual I am, I was like, do you want to like come back to my house? We live close to the airport. Like, my parents can give you a ride later. So I just felt bad for the guy, like sitting at the airport all day. And so he's like, okay. So a couple other athletes who were like local, like we all came back and were like hanging out. And that was the year that norovirus thing was going around, and it hit both of us like at the same time. So never like didn't know him before.
First impressions to the family.
Yeah. And we're like just miserable, like getting so sick. Like he almost didn't even fly home. It was that bad. And so his first impression to my parents is like, he's like getting so sick. I'm so sick. And so that was my first time we met. And then fast forward a couple of years, we, did goalball, but weren't really close. And then, he's in Pittsburgh, I'm in Oregon, and we worked at Camp Bloomfield together with Josh Lucas as our boss in 2015. And I would say that was the summer we really got like close. And
that's where like we started to make a close friendship.
Yeah.
And that like grew and grew and grew. And then I came out a few times for spring break to visit her in Portland.
I went to Pittsburgh a few times, but we didn't start dating until 2017 when we were both moved out here to train for goalball.
Got it.
Kind of like a long-winded love story.
So was it love at first sight, but it just couldn't be brought together?
No, we were both in different relationships.
I wouldn't say love at first sight, no.
We were definitely friends first for a while.
I love that.
Sorry to ruin that image.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, you were so young,
Yeah.
It's good.
He kind of scared me. He's like 6'7". He was like a giant. I'm like, who's this tall?
Blocks that goal though.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
All right. So talk to me about like whether you can choose two ways to answer this, whether you're talking to yourself as a little kid or parents of a little kid that is kind of born into your same situation. What's your advice for them?
You want me to go?
You can go first. Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. So like I said early in the podcast, like my parents did a great job at making me feel like included and normalizing my vision impairment. And so first off, I think that's important to treat your child with a disability the same as your other children. Learned helplessness is a thing. So, you really want to teach them independence, confidence.
Yep.
That's really basic foundation is, you want to support your child, but you don't want to put them in a bubble. You don't want to tell them what they can and cannot do. You want to help facilitate and like foster growth. But level 2 of that, and this is what I realized as I've gotten older, is you also want to talk about their disability. We didn't really talk about it in my family. And so I never really knew how to talk about it myself. And so I think that's like the level 2 part of it is you want to normalize it. But in doing so, you also want to, talk about it and give them a voice for that and to talk about it. Like my parents, when I was growing up, I had mobility and I was told to use my cane and I didn't want to. And my parents didn't really fully understand either. So I didn't want to. So like, yeah, you don't have to. And
Right.
I'm not saying like force that because it is a hard decision and your child needs to get there on their own, but encourage them, talk about it, say it's not embarrassing. We think it's great. We love this. Like, so just like normalizing it, but also talking about it, and don't normalize it to the extent where then it's not talked about, because then it's hard to know, well, when do I talk about this? When do I point out the differences? So I guess that would be my biggest thing.
So what you're saying is it's really interesting. And listen, as a parent, I think this is golden, right? To like help other parents sort of sift through this. So you're kind of saying find a balance.
Yeah.
Right? Like on one level, you're saying sort of ignore it, treat them normal, let them live a life as much as you can. But then on the other hand, there needs to be conversations and they need to understand what's going on and have the words. So it's a little bit of finding balance, right?
Exactly.
Good. That's great. That's great advice. And I'll just to give you like a little personal anecdote. So when our eldest son Ezra was born, we wrote a script at the advice of a therapist that we were connected to, and we used the script to explain his story, and we sent it to friends and family and teachers and camp counselors, and everybody got it, and so he heard that same script over and over and over and over again, and he could, by the time he's 4 or 5, he could deliver it to anybody at any situation because it was so ingrained in his brain that he had a disability that it didn't really, what I mean? It was a very matter of fact. And so I do think there's power in words, right? And communication like that. What about you, Calahan? What would you say?
I mean, my advice to anyone that I wish to me, like going as a kid, that I would have like actually taken and honed in on is just to be open-minded and to be like accepting, because those are the two things that like the two hardest things that I have problems with, right? Is being, well, when I was a kid, is that like being open-minded that I do have a disability and it's not going anywhere, kind of embracing like what Eliana said. I mean, it's pretty similar for what I would want to tell myself as a kid, like, because I feel like I did hold myself back and not recognizing the fact that I did have a disability. I told myself I'm not blind. I'm just like everyone else. I can do all these sports. And, I feel like that held me back for so long, whether it was my grades, sports. I could have been doing so many other things and been like reading. I hated reading growing up because I'd have to like one page of text take me like 20 minutes to read. And if I would have known about audiobooks, I mean, we go through books. I mean, on a weekly basis, we go through a number of books. And so I love to read. And so like, it's just like one of those things, it's just leisure, but it's could have changed my entire grow up, just been like, hey, be open-minded, accept that you're blind, and just know that by doing that, it's going to help you at the end of the day.
So, yeah, because what another thing that I see is a lot of our kids, I call them, little adaptive kids that are attempting to mainstream in sport, and at some point it's a struggle and they can't keep up, and then they give up sport when, if we had sort of redirected them over here, right? Paralympic sport, adaptive sport, fair, and, equipment's designed, the rules are designed for them, like everything is like, right? It's like
Yeah.
This is where they maybe should have been earlier, but they don't even know to come over here, right? And they're sort of stuck trying to fight the system, right? The system of non-disabled athletes. That's very hard. And so to me, that's like super tragic to think a kid that loves sport quits because they can't keep up with their non-disabled peers when their true peers are actually over here, in the adaptive community. And we failed to move them over. Right.
Yeah.
And that's something we do. We do goalball demos. Well, we did before COVID, but we did goalball demos in high schools all the time. I was even a part of a group. We went to Moscow, Russia. We went and taught local school districts there how to play goalball and about adaptive sports so that they could get more kids involved.
Yeah.
And get them physically engaged. And tying back to what Eliana said, when she was in PE classes, same goes for me. Like we play different sports. We had the option of playing whatever it was, like badminton or walking around the track. I'd always walk around the track because I'm not going to be able to play badminton. So it's funny to look back and be like, wow, like all those days walking around the track, and I could have been, we could have tried goalball. We could have done X, Y, or Z, just a number of different disabled sports that we could have, or adapted any of those sports really. So it's just funny. If it was me now, I would have been like, no, I'm playing badminton. Where's your ball with a bell in it that I can try to hit? Right. Stubborn me now. I want to be a part of it. And I want to help accommodate. So how can we do it? Whereas then it was, okay, I'll walk around the track.
Well, and the hard thing with para sports in terms of goalball is there are 22 Paralympic sports, and goalball is the only sport that does not have an able-bodied partner sport. So you have like wheelchair basketball and basketball, you have track and you have para track. And so it's hard to get blind athletes to know about goalball because like they don't even know about the adaptation because they don't even know about the sport to begin with.
Yeah.
And so we're really trying to get like education and awareness out there for people to even know that it's an opportunity that exists. Because it's cool. It's a sport in its essence that is adaptive. It was created after World War II for blinded veterans. And so the sport was created as an adaptive sport, which is unique and that's great. But then we don't have a partner sport that people know about. If you say, I do wheelchair basketball, people may not know the ins and outs, but they can conceptualize it's basketball and you're in a wheelchair. There's a lot more to it. I'm not trying to make it simplistic, but they have an imagery.
No, I love what you're saying. And I agree with you. And I think that one of the, just someone that, we provide over 20 adaptive sports a year. What that tells me is it may not be the best starter sport, right? Because if you don't have a program locally, what I like to say too is like, just get out there, right? Whether it's swimming or track or archery, like we can accommodate, right, the eye and blind athletes and all these other sports, get them started. And those are sports that they can do in their local community, almost no matter where they are in the country or the world.
Exactly.
Right. And then we can still expose them to goalball at moments. And then if that's their passion, then they'll figure it out from there. But I do think that like because it's tricky to find programming, right, then it isn't maybe the best sort of starter sport, but it needs to be in the conversation so people know.
Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense. All right, so this is a super fun question, and I get the craziest answers. What do I not know about you?
Let's see. You can go first. You always make me go first.
Okay.
Could be a hidden talent, could be a weird interest that no one's ever heard you talk about, could be, whatever.
Oh God.
All right. I had an
crazy
internship.
thing you've done in your life that no one knows about. I don't know.
Okay. So I had an internship with the FBI in 2017.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I took a polygraph test.
Really?
Yeah.
Calahan, beat that. Come on. What do you got?
Yeah.
Beat that. Listen, I do a lot of cool stuff. I'm trying to think of something that's unique. You know what? I met Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and I met them at a bar in Pennsylvania at a bar called Sharky's Cafe in 2008. That's my cool thing. We were after one of my middle school football games, we went to the mall with my mom, and this is one of her Hillary and Barack were campaigning. And so we saw the motorcade going down the street next to the mall. And we're like, oh my God, that's either Hillary or Barack. And so we followed it. It went to a bar and called Sharky's, which is so funny because like I know exactly where it is now. But like then I don't think I've ever gone that far west or east before. And so we went up to the state cop and was like, hey, can we go say hi to them? And state cop said, sure. Like wait for them to get off the bus, and Secret Service to do like the scan or whatever they were doing. As we went over and we hung out with Barack Obama and Joe Biden for about like 15 minutes outside of Sharky's Cafe. So, and the crappy thing is this is 2008. So none of us had phones. So we have no proof of it, but it happened. My brother, my sister, my mom were all there.
That's a great story.
Yeah, so top that.
I met Barack Obama at the White House in 2016, and I have a photo. So,
yeah, of course you did.
Yeah, of course she did, right? It's a fake photo.
All the I don't know if you know this, but after the games, all the Olympic and Paralympic athletes get invited out to the White House, or they did in years past. So we went in 2016.
Yes.
So
my friend Angela Madsen on the track team who passed away last year, I was there with you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, no, I knew that. I love the competitive nature of your relationship where you're like trying to one up each other. It's like, oh no, you go first, because then I'm gonna deliver the knockout blow after you go.
I do cool stuff. Like I feel like I talk about it a lot, so I don't really know what is hidden.
Well, I have two brothers, and I'm from a Greek family. So what do you want from me?
Yeah, no, you're ready to go.
Yeah,
you're ready to go. I love it. We've talked a little bit about this, but I'm just going to throw it out there because you're both so articulate about your disability journey. But what has your disability taught you?
Well, I would say that my disability has taught me that, like, you know, I know it sounds cliche, but like anything is possible. Like I've traveled around the world for business and pleasure at this point in my life. I currently on the board of directors of United States Association of Blind Athletes. I'm getting my master's degree. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when I was in high school, I was kind of like what am I going to do with my life? And at this point, I'm still kind of figuring out like, what am I going to do with my life? But I have a lot of things going on that are so positive, and, you know, I've kind of made you can dig your own hole. Right. And so I've dug this spot that I really like, that I know I feel comfortable. If I wanted to go travel by myself, I feel comfortable. And so I really do think that being blind has taught me that, like, you can kind of persevere through anything, whether it's coming back from Pittsburgh to Fort Wayne, taking an overnight train, and you're tired, groggy, but sprinting over to practice, even though you had no sleep. You know, I've gotten so accommodating, I guess, for like life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But there's more, it's more than what you're saying. It's more than accommodating, right? There's like a creativity, there's a resilience, there's all these just right. Because the world isn't really designed for you.
100%. Yeah. And that's, you know, I learned that more as I go along, that most things are not designed for people that are blind. And so, I find it fun to go into, to get into those situations and try to figure out how to get, I mean, yeah, I get tons of anxiety from it, but you know, like going into like, I don't know, like flying, the thought of like you need to get assistance and go through X, Y, and Z. Like that gives me so much anxiety, but I love going out and doing stuff that, you know, I figure it out. That's the thing, is like, I will figure it out, whether it's a book for school that I need to. My classes are one class every 8 weeks. So they're originally 16 weeks, but they're condensed for the online program I'm in. And so I don't get my books until like the second week of class. So I've already missed an eighth of the condensed class. And so, you know, you kind of just got to figure it out, like any way possible. So it's unique.
I like that. Eliana?
You know, I feel like it's given me a large amount of like empathy and like understanding and like thought, like caring towards others. It can be easy sometimes to just like go through life and kind of focus on yourself. And, you know, when you don't have to think about certain things, you just don't. Like when you don't have to think about public transportation or Ubers or, you know, how to get from point A to point B at the airport, you don't think about it. And that's not a bad thing. I'm sure there are tons of things that I, you know, am privileged within and don't think about. So like that across the board. But I think with having a disability and especially a vision impairment, you know, our world is meant for sighted people. So I think it's giving me a large amount of empathy towards others and their situations or like things that they go through. And I mean, like I'm in school to be a mental health counselor. Like it is a passion of mine is, you know, working with others and, you know, helping others and trying to fill that role. So I think that's one of the main things that I would say for myself.
That I love that. I love that one. And it really speaks to me because I think I am a much kinder and more empathetic human being because I've been exposed to this community, you know, because that I'm just in it with my son and all these amazing athletes that we work with, not just the elites, but the everyday, little kids and the vets and, just everybody in it, right? We're all in it together. It's the same journey, just maybe, it varies a bit person to person, but the basic components of the journey are very similar, right?
My dad told me like a while ago, he was out at a comedy show and he was leaving and he saw a bunch of like blind guys with their canes, like, by the doors, like with their phones out. And he went over to them. He's like, hi, like, do you guys need a ride home? Like, I'm more than willing to like help you out. And, I think without me being his child, he never would have thought like these people might need help, so it really does just like open your eyes to like think about others more.
Yeah. And I think it's also like just a higher level of awareness and empathy for humanity, even just beyond disability. It's like, it's just, I don't think I was like a mean person before, but I was more neutral than I should have been, maybe.
No, I get it. I understand. I feel like I'm kind of like a neutral right now because sometimes I'm like, oh, this is so cool. But other times, like Eliana was saying, like people offer me a ride and I'm so stubborn. I'm like, no, I can do it.
Well, and you get people that get offended, but that by the assumption that you need help too, right? So it's like, it's hard to know, right? What the right thing is to say in those situations.
I always just tell people to like ask. Like people are always like, what's the best way? I'm like, just ask. Like, just don't assume, don't project, just ask. Like, and do it in like a kind, considerate manner. Like we've talked about this whole podcast, vision loss is a spectrum. And so like, yeah, I can read my phone, but it's size large and it's this close to my face. And people are like, how are you looking at your phone if you're blind? And it's like, that's so accusatory and it puts you on the defense. Whereas if you just say like, oh, I noticed you have a vision loss and you're using your phone, like, can you please like explain to me like more about that? Love to. So it's all about the approach and like, how do you, approach people?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Cause you guys will get to know me, but like, I literally like chase people down on the street that I see, right? If they're blind or they have a limp or they're in a chair or whatever, I will run up to them and, some percentage of the time they like shoo me away like a, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But like sometimes they end up being friends and part of our family and part of the community. Sometimes they blow me off, whatever. But yeah, no, it's super.
That's awesome. You could be changing their life by, going up to them and introducing yourself in Angel City. So, I think that's great.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd like to take a quick break to show you how you can get involved as a volunteer with Angel City Sports.
Are you interested in supporting Angel City Sports? We're seeking volunteers to help organize clinics and events, as well as support our athlete outreach efforts, marketing and media, and even fundraising and development. All skill sets and backgrounds are welcome in support of our mission to provide free adaptive sport opportunities for children, adults, and veterans with physical disabilities or visual impairments. For our younger athletes, we welcome you to join the Angel City Youth Leadership Council. Middle and high school age students are eligible to join the Youth Leadership Council, where you will learn about the disabled community by working side by side with our athletes and acquire important skills such as teamwork, leadership, philanthropy, and event management. To sign up for our volunteer newsletter and stay up to date on all upcoming opportunities, visit angelcitysports.org.
All right, so this is a tough one, and you guys are so young, so maybe you get to sort of skirt this question. I don't know. But if you have regrets, mistakes, and failures so far in your life, what did you learn from it? How did you get past them?
You know, a teammate said this the other day that like really resonated with me. And she said, like, failure isn't making mistakes, it's not trying.
Mhm.
And that like really resonated with me. And I think that would be the biggest thing. Like if I ever like didn't go for something because I was too afraid or insecure, that's I think where I would have regret. Whereas like if you go for it and it doesn't work out, then you just kind of like Calahan was saying, like how do you be resilient or resourceful and try something different? So I think that's the biggest thing to consider with failure is not trying.
But is there an example of that in your life where you didn't try for something that you wish you had tried? I mean, it's a great learning. I'm just curious.
I'm trying to think too of things that like
Yeah.
I've definitely tried a lot of things that I do regret doing.
Oh, I have one. I really wanted to study abroad in college. And
I did too. Oh,
yeah, and I kept making excuses like I'm too busy with goalball. I'm too
I can't
this,
afford it.
Yeah, and you know, that might be true on a level, but if I wanted to make it happen, I would have. But it's for me to study abroad, I would have had to, you know, fully be accepting of my vision loss, which I wasn't necessarily there yet. And I would have had to use assistance and accommodations. And it's like terrifying to travel alone. And then especially when you're blind. So I made excuses, but that is one regret I do have is I wish I would have had the confidence to study abroad.
Yep. What do you got, Calahan?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything that I've ever done. Usually when life hands me lemons, I tend to say yes.
Your internship.
Well, I don't.
You wanted to do it at a VA hospital.
Well, I did my internship here at Turnstone Center for Children and Adults with Disabilities, which I loved. I appreciated it. But I got here. Part of the reason I chose to do it here was for goalball. But then a day before I graduated with my undergrad, I strained my bicep tendon in my shoulder, so I couldn't play goalball for the whole summer, anyways. So it was kind of just like a bad setup because like half of the reason I came here, and I'm not talking anything negative because I love the internship and I love the opportunity, but I got accepted for the Cleveland Veterans Affairs Hospital, and I really wanted to do it because I never really worked in a hospital setting. And so I was really excited for that. But then I got this great opportunity and I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then I hurt my shoulder. So it was like a
little karma, right?
Yeah, I regret the fact that I didn't do that. But like going into the situation, I had a great setup with goalball and with the internship. One of the things I ran for what is it, like the student council in like 8th grade. And the speech this is one of my regrets in life. One of my speeches that I gave was, and given I was in 8th grade, I didn't start on any of the sports I played. Like my opener, like my hook for the entire school to watch was, "Hi, I'm Calahan Young. I may not start for any sports, but I will start and be the best student president, counselor, whatever it was." And like I got made fun of relentlessly for I'm Calahan Young. I may not start or play sports for anything. Oh my God, that was one of the most embarrassing things I think I've ever done. It was broadcasted like they recorded it and then they broadcasted it to the whole school the next day.
Because it was so funny.
Not at that time. 8th grade, I didn't have many friends, and that's the route that I took.
At least you had the courage. At least you had the courage to try, man.
Exactly, but that was embarrassing. But like, I don't have any major life regrets, honestly. Like, even for like Camp Bloomfield with Josh Lucas, in 2014, I went out there by myself. I didn't know anyone else, and that gives me so much anxiety because like I didn't use my cane yet. And I didn't know anybody besides Josh, and he was like the director. And so, I really can't be friends necessarily with the director. And so, even like situations like that, I try to just peel the Band-Aid off and just go for it.
That's good. That's good. When you get to be my age, you're going to have a lot of mistakes and failures and regrets. And I think like all you can do is just own them and learn from them and move on, right? I don't know.
Definitely.
But Eliana, I share that I didn't go to. I wanted to go to Kenya for some reason to study abroad, and I didn't make it happen. I had too many.
Cool. That would have been cool.
Too many stories about why. All right, so I know there's a lot more achievement and accomplishment coming in your lives, but so far in your lives, what are you most proud of, accomplishment-wise?
Are you like wanting a sports angle or like in general?
Whatever comes to mind.
Some of the things like, so one of my building like aspects of life was that in high school, I hated school because I did so bad. And so that drove me to get good grades in college. And so graduating my undergrad with honors was one of my biggest things that one of the biggest things accomplishments I did getting, if I'm so close, this is my last class, my master's program. And so I know that'll be also up there. And
that's awesome.
Short-term thing, qualifying for the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics and getting named as one of the team captains for that team. Yeah, those are things that like really mean the most to me, like accomplishment wise right now.
Well, I love the honors level grades in college that were actually a reaction to the bad grades in high school, right? Where you sort of fixed it, which I love.
Yeah.
I love it. Eliana, what do you got?
Well, going to the Rio 2016 Paralympics and being a part of the team that won a bronze medal was pretty incredible. You just can't describe that moment. Getting into grad school was a big accomplishment. I have known since I was like 13 what I wanted to do. Every adult's like, oh, you'll change your mind. I'm like, nope, this is what I want to do. So getting like a step closer to that goal is really cool. And I would say having my internship with the FBI was really cool. I was so nervous to do it and really intimidated. And that was a really good growing experience for me. And I felt very accomplished after that time. So, and then being a part of the team that helped qualify for Tokyo, like we actually as a team just rewatched that game the other day and it still gives me like chills just like watching it. And on the camera, like when we qualify, the game ends, I'm literally like on the court, like crying, like so excited that like we made it, like, cause we didn't do that great in 2018 for Worlds and you only get a couple of chances to qualify. Like there's only 10 women and 10 men's teams that get a go. So if you don't, step up and show up when you need to, like your country's not going to compete for that sport, for team sports. So to qualify for Tokyo, in Fort Wayne, with family and friends here, like I can't describe it as it was an amazing moment.
That's beautiful. I can appreciate that moment so much because when my son basically hit the B standard, meaning he was going to make the team, he did it at the Angel City Games.
Wow.
At UCLA, our home track, surrounded by family and friends.
That's super cool.
And I can send you can find him on Instagram, but I can send you one of his, there's so many angles of the one jump, right?
Yes, please do.
Everyone was recording and there's one picture of like his, my youngest son in the background wearing these red sweatpants. And he's like a little jumping bean, jumping. It's just like so cute.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And I think like, when you think about 2028, right? I mean, how magical is that going to be for all of us, right? Because we know we'll just pack the stands, right, with our people. So it's going to be so cool.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. All right, you guys are giving me so much. I'm going to just end with a doozy.
Okay.
What is your purpose?
You can go first.
Of course. Let's see. I am really passionate about like the disability community and adaptive sports. And I try to take every opportunity I can to, like I said earlier, like create more education and awareness. I've worked at a couple of campabilities, do demos. Calahan and I actually both helped our individual colleges start a collegiate goalball team to get like our sighted peers involved and to spread the sport. So like, I think one of my purposes is to like get people involved with sports. And I mean, obviously I'm biased towards goalball, but any sport, honestly, like for one of my mental health counseling research classes, I did a whole paper on how sports are related to self-esteem, confidence, and well-being. And like the younger and earlier we can get kids involved with sports or teamwork or recreational activities, and especially kids with disabilities, like it is life-changing for them and their confidence. Like, and not just the sport itself, but seeing role models. Like when I was 14 and playing goalball, I got to see older, athletes who were married, had jobs, went to college, had kids. Like it was they were role models and they were mentors. And like, all I want is to give back and like be a role model or mentor to someone younger who maybe is still looking to find that like confidence or that purpose. So disability sports is a huge passion of mine, and like changing how that's seen in the world.
I love that. I love that. And by the way, it's amazing how many Paralympians will give a kind of similar answer because they know how much luck or randomness, right, entered into their lives and getting them where they are. And it's like there's this shared vision and passion for like not making, taking the luck out of it is another way to say it, right?
Spreading that awareness.
What about you, Calahan?
I mean, honestly, it's similar. I went to school. My undergrad was recreational therapy with a minor in adaptive physical activity. Adaptive sports, they really did save my life, and they changed who I am and like how I view pretty much everything I enter into. And so trying to give back and trying to spread awareness and get people involved with sports or just being comfortable with who they are and being a role model, like Eliana said. I try to do the best that I can do, whether it's school or sports. And that's for me, but I want to be a good role model for these kids that are coming up. In Goalball, like I want to be beat out for my spot by someone that's better than me. So, because, the team, at the end of the day, it's for the team to win, not just for me to win. And so just trying to get everyone around me to be a role model for them is just so crucial in what I like and how I try to live my life.
Beautiful. That question freaks some people out, but you guys handled it beautifully. So that's basically the end of the show. I just want to thank you both for being my first couple on the show. And maybe I'll do more. There aren't that many couples that I'm aware of in the Paralympic movement, but really fun to get the two perspectives and journeys and see how they're sort of kind of intertwined. And just excited to have you guys out for the Angel City Games presented by the Hartford one of these days. We do have some sort of stealth plans coming for 2021, and then 2022. We're going to blow it up. It's going to be a big, big year. Cool. And just one last quick question is, what's your if people hear the show and they want to follow you, they want to kind of follow your journey, what's the best way you want people to follow you? Is it on Instagram or Facebook? And if you want to throw out your handle, and we'll drop it into the show notes as well. But what's the best way for people to kind of follow your journey?
So both the USA, the men's and women's programs, our social media handles are USAM Goalball and USAW Goalball for Instagram and Twitter. And then we also have a Facebook at USA Men's Goalball and USA Women's Goalball. So those are the best ways to follow the team's progress towards Tokyo.
And then what about you guys individually?
Facebook is just my name, Eliana Mason, ELIANA MASON, and Instagram is similar, but it's Eliana with 2 A's at the end, and then Marie with a bunch of E's, but you'll find me. But real quick, I had to show you. I wear this. I don't know if I'm showing it to you the right way.
Yeah.
My Angel City mask. I rep this everywhere I go. I love these masks. So we love our Angel City masks.
They're super comfy, right?
They're so comfy. And we got so many. So I rep these all the time.
It seems like disability sports organizations are the only mask I really like. In Vision Blind Sports, they have these really nice easy to breathe masks. I'm like, oh, this is the best one. I lost it, and so now I wear my Angel City one nonstop.
Oh, send me some pictures, guys. I've got to send me some pictures.
We will.
Yeah. And then for my Instagram, it's at the real Calahan Young. And then it's in hopes I'll get famous one day. So someone's, and then my Facebook is just Calahan Young.
Okay, beautiful. Well, listen, as long as you believe you're famous, that's